Okay, we can be good to go.
Okay. All right, we'll call this meeting to order. Okay, who's taking roll call? Oh, Rob,
I
can you
can.
take roll call, please?
I sure can. Ms. Knapp.
Here.
Mr. Ringel. Here. Mrs. Faust.
Here. Okay, we'll do that.
Six. Keep saying it's one shit. But it's small. It's just grow.
Okay, we are here today for a rezoning hearing for application ZON-24-01. First, we will hear, we're going to hear, we'll have the staff, Mr. Duffy, give the information and the zoning staff report, and then we'll have the applicant give a presentation, and then we'll ask questions, and then we'll have public comment. Go ahead, Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Ms. Knapp. We are here for a rezoning case ZON-24-01. The applicant is Pickups Plus Cars. The agent is Joe Clace with Plan for Land. The site is located on US Highway 23, does not currently have an address, but does have the parcel ID that is there listed in the staff report. We are talking about a total of 1.127 acres that is requested to be rezoned from Farm Residential District to the Planned Commercial and Office District to allow for the construction and operation of a facility to be used for automobile sales and service. Again, the property is currently zoned FR1 and has been owned by the Solid Ground Land Company since 2015, and it is currently vacant. The property to the north and west, which is one continuous property that wraps around it, is zoned farm residential. To the south is the existing Pickups Plus building with their operation there, and then to the east is US 23 with the county buildings directly across from it. You can see there the applicant's proposed development plan. So they are proposing to have roughly 10,880 square foot facility that would house similar operations to their existing building directly to the south. And they would also have parking and landscaping associated with the primary building. The minimum front yard setback would be 80 feet. The building is set back 90 feet from US 23, so it does comply with that front setback. Where it gets a little funky is with the north and west setbacks. So the property, the setback from the north property line is listed in the application as 75 feet. And the western property line, that setback would be 35 feet. Both of these setbacks would require divergences because that property is zoned farm residential currently. However, that property is owned by a commercial entity, and that is subject to Route 23 corridor overlay district application that is currently tabled. I would like to mention that if those setbacks were to be applied, particularly the western setback, which would require 100 feet from a residential property line, that combined with the 80-foot setback from the east would make a very limited building envelope permitted by the setbacks there. The applicant is not proposing any direct access on the US 23. Instead, they would use the existing access from the parcels to the south. So that I believe that is a benefit that they are not going to be needing an additional curb cut onto 23 itself. For open space and landscaping, they are proposing 74.8% impervious surfaces for lot coverage, which is just under the maximum that is allowed, which is 75%. They're proposing a total of 14 trees and shrubs to be planted throughout the site, as well as a number of flower beds with various plantings. And then they're also proposing a 2 to 3 foot tall earthen mound along the site's frontage on US 23 to help shield that headlight sweep. They do comply with parking. They would be required to have 33 parking spaces, and they're showing a total of 43 spaces. For lighting, they are requesting a divergence for lighting, which establishes the maximum number of foot candle levels along a property line. So where that, Andrew, actually, would you mind scrolling up, please, to the site plan just to illustrate? So because the building is located on the southern edge of this parcel, they have lighting on that southern building line there that would trespass onto the property below. Because that property is also owned by Pickups Plus, we are okay with that lighting trespass, but it would require a divergence. To kind of codify that, as well as the access, the applicant has proposed that they would record a cross-access easement between these two parcels so that both access and the lighting trespass would be permitted no matter what happens in the future. Signage, they are not proposing any signage variances or divergences, so any signs that would come with the building would be required to follow the Orange Township zoning resolution for signage. The application does comply with the Orange Township Comprehensive Plan, which also recommends access management techniques to prevent additional access on US 23, which they are also complying with. And getting down to the last sections of the staff report. So again, they have 3 total divergences. Staff is generally supportive of all of these requests. So 2 of those are for one is for the requirement to plat. So requesting a divergence from the requirement to plat with Delaware County. The second divergence is for the light pollution along that southern property line. And then the third divergence is for the 2 setbacks, again, from the north side and the west side. In terms of technical review, the Orange Township Fire Department, when I wrote this staff report, they had not yet approved, but they have approved it earlier this week. So they are good with the fire department. They will still need to get final permits from the department before they can build. So I have included that as a condition in your approval packet. Delaware County Regional Planning Commission heard this application at their March 28th hearing date. They did issue their recommendation of conditional approval based on staff recommendations with the following conditions. 1, that the applicant submits plans to the fire department and receive approval prior to zoning approval. 2 is dedication of an ingress-egress easement across the western border of this property to facilitate for the future parallel access road that was recommended in the Orange Township Comprehensive Plan. And that 3, the entirety of the Pickups Plus car use be combined, ideally with a plat. On number 3, I think the cross-access easement would accomplish the same purpose while legally keeping the parcels separate. So at least as far as we are concerned in zoning, I do not have an issue with how they're proceeding. The Orange Township Zoning Commission recommended approval with modifications of this application at their April 23rd meeting with a 5-0 vote. The additional modifications of the approval are listed as follows. 1, that the applicant will provide evidence of a recorded cross-access easement to facilitate access and the lighting trespass between the subject property and the adjacent property to the south at the time of permitting. And number 2, that the applicant will provide evidence that the Orange Township Fire Department has reviewed and approved the site plan prior to approval of the rezoning by the Orange Township trustees. As far as our recommendation, we do recommend approval of this application. And that concludes the staff report. I don't have anything else at this time. If trustees have questions, I am here and the applicant is here as well.
Regarding that easement, or the ingress egress to the west, that's not on the plan?
It is not.
It's not, okay.
And it could happen at a future date.
I had a follow-up about that. So is there a space in this that it could work?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, where would that go if it were?
Probably, if that were to happen, it would be just north of the proposed building along the western property line there.
And there isn't one to for the existing Pickups Plus, right, to the west?
No.
So you mean where the dumpster would be? Like that's where the road would?
Potentially.
Okay, so you just have to move that at a later time?
Yeah.
If that road were to ever happen?
Correct.
Okay.
Could we make that a condition that if that road is ever built, they have to make an ingress egress versus forcing them to do it for something that might not happen for who knows how long, a couple years?
Potentially.
Okay.
It would also require consent from the property owner to the west.
if that road were to be
Yeah.
installed.
Yeah. Can you zoom, or shoot, no, I can't zoom out.
Yeah, I can also pull up the auditor's website.
Yeah, I'm trying to, okay, so, because we don't know where that road would go
We do
yet.
not.
Okay. Yeah, could you pull that up? And then, yeah, and then we can go ahead. Do you guys have more questions for now?
I had some questions. We can let them do their application.
Yeah, okay. Do you want to come up and give your presentation, applicant?
Joe Place with Plan for Land, here with Evan Bishop with Pebble Construction and Kyle Coy, who's both the business owner and property owner, representing both entities here today. We appreciate working with Robin, and thank you guys for your time. We've appreciated the planning process. I was involved as a staff planner at regional planning back when this came through originally, so I had a little bit of knowledge of the cross-access that was proposed back then. I think it was a discussion about a north-south road. It's probably not practical today based on some of the surrounding development. There was an easement granted from the property owner, from his existing site to the south, that's not been utilized, but it would fall in the 30-foot corridor along the backside running north-south, and it would be shared with the property owner to the west. Preliminary development plans we saw and what was presented to the township didn't indicate that that road would be getting built as part of their development, so we've assumingly left it off as well. We did provide easy access, maybe not even through the dumpster site, but just through that back corridor, that if there's cross easement access needed for emergency access or for connectivity, that could be definitely accomplished. So.
Would you just add a little bit more pavement where that pavement almost is up, that's the property line?
Yeah, I think the thought is that whole back area, when we go through final engineering, there's going to be some reconfigurations of the drive, but we've not proposed screening or anything in that area too, mainly because that's going to be kept open for depending on what happens behind. He wants to landscape nicely and he wants to do what he's obligated to do per the plan, and obviously try to help in what's in the back, but that might get changed as we go through final engineering. I kept it very wide drive aisle. We don't plan on covering 75% of the site, but I didn't want to come back and have to ask for more later. So I think some of that area in the back might end up being more green space when they go through final engineering. Other than that, everything that's been recommended, we appreciate. I think regional planning's conditions, we contested a couple of those last two. The one we just talked about with cross access, we definitely grant cross access to the south, and we can record that before it goes through the permitting process. We'll make sure that includes lighting as well. For the other comment that they had about combining ownership, I think they had a miscommunication that this was all going to be future business and these buildings would be staying together. He does plan to run the business as Pickups Plus together, but this is going to be the automobile side and the other is going to be the parts side. So there's maybe a little bit of division between the two buildings and definitely a benefit to keep them in separate parcels and separate ownership. So even though they might be jointly owned by the same party.
Just two different companies, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Or maybe the same company, but just two separate parcels. Right. So, but yeah, other than that, I'm here to answer any questions you guys have. If you have questions of them as well, I'm happy to be here to ask for your approval today. Thanks.
Thanks. Are there any comments from the public? No? Okay. Could you pull up the GIS again? Okay. So this could be technically two different businesses in the future, right? If the buildings are sold at some point, right?
Correct.
And the divergence would still be applied to those businesses in the future.
Yeah.
Okay. That's permanent. Do you see any problem with that?
No, I don't have any concerns.
Okay, and so where would, we don't really know where the road is. Could you zoom out just a little bit more? Yeah, we don't really know exactly where the road's going to be.
Correct, yeah. At one point I thought it was coming, can you show up just a little bit more north, Andrew? I was thinking that it was an extension of Gooding. See how behind Nationwide there, the road just kind of dies?
Yeah.
But you have, what is it, caliber collision? That it would, you can kind of see the property just on the north of, I think it's Parkway there. So it would kind of go through their business if the road were to
Correct.
happen. So the assumption is this in my small brain, that would not go through the building.
Where is Calvert Clifton? It's that little building right there. Okay.
It's not that, but that's
Yeah,
the property.
this is a couple years dated aerial.
Okay. So it's not, the building is located more towards 23.
I think it's actually kind of centered in the development. That was.
And Joe, did I hear you say that there is a cross-access easement on the existing pickups plus to the west?
Yeah, so the thought process was it was going to connect to the south to, I think, Orange Road.
Right.
Correct? So it was going to connect Orange Road to Gooding. And like I said, there were many reasons that road's not been built to date, but it was, I think, identified in the comprehensive plan back in
2018 was when that was.
Yeah, and so I think part of it too is because what Joe is saying, since the existing Pickups Plus parcel does have that cross-access easement, and this would be connected to that, I don't know that another one would be required. Yeah.
Okay.
Was it nice to see an easement? Wait, I think that's for the Calvert Clifton.
Did I see a little sliver behind the Calvert or behind the, Calvert?
Just north of it? Or
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah,
Almost like the. Is that house occupied currently?
Yes, that one is.
That is. And then, but what's that little sliver there? Is that a sliver or is that?
I think it just looks like it is. I think
not.
it's just a.
Yeah, it's just it's a fence line.
I think that's what it is.
So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that could be configured. I mean, it could come down and where the house is existing now. I mean, I don't know. We don't really know how that's going to end up, you know? I mean, no clue.
But I think what I heard them say is because at this point they're two separate businesses or they're really next to each other and the parking lots are gonna basically they're gonna connect. So if you need to get from the new proposed development to that road that doesn't exist yet, you could just go in the southern property and go that way.
What do you mean?
Because there's already an easement. Can you scroll up, Andrew? So I think in the back, the bottom left-hand corner of the existing Pickups Plus building, that's where the easement would go to tie into that road that doesn't exist at this time.
Okay.
So if you need to
Yeah.
get there from the proposed development, you can just come onto the southern property and then take the road there. You're probably not gonna,
Yeah.
everybody having access onto that road.
Now, what if that building, if that property sells in the future, it becomes a different use?
Well, then that's, yeah.
Well, that's why they would have the cross-access easement between the two
Yeah.
Pickups Plus parcels, so that
And
would
that
be
basically just
permanent.
legally saying that people can enter and exit
Correct.
the northern property from the southern one, is that
Correct.
correct?
Yep.
It would be better to have a direct easement or access if that happened, right? I mean, would the property, say, I mean, this might not happen for a while, but say 30 years down the road, someone buys that and they want to, it would probably be in their best interest to connect to that road anyway, right? If they're a separate business that's set in this property.
To connect in the back. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there'd be probably a financial incentive to get more customers in and out. So I think you would want to at that time if it was planned that
But
way.
the way you're designing it, you could
Correct.
just do it on, like right here, just on the northwest corner of the building where the proposed driveway behind it goes. You can just-
Yeah. Where on the current parcel, yeah. Yeah.
So that's just something you have to record, right? You just have to record that. And you guys are open to that?
Correct. Yeah, it's just the assumption of putting an easement on there, I think, would kind of premeditate a location and it would encumber the land. So if we can stay free of the easement restriction, I think that's probably better at this point.
Right. Yeah.
think that it would only, it might even serve your interest or your interest to connect, you know, have a direct connection from that, though I don't know, it might not, but
So-
it would seem to be a self-fixing problem.
I've dealt with this at our Hilliard location, and there's some safety concerns that come up if you don't have control of, you know, where
In and out, yeah.
on the in and out. So yeah, it is one of those things that it almost becomes a safety issue with traffic zooming, you know, behind businesses and those. So it's got to be controlled however we do it.
So you would prefer one entrance, one egress from your
I would-
property if that happened?
I would say the one off of, you know, our existing would be where we would start.
Yeah.
I mean,
There is a development plan that's been presented for the property in the past. I understand it was withdrawn or tabled, but that application does not show a connection to this property. So if that applicant would want to approach, he could approach Kyle and they can negotiate that location in the future. Not to say that it's going to be it's just a conversation that needs to happen that hasn't. So.
The property to the north?
To the west. So that the north and west, that there's a larger development plan for that entire property that's.
The 79. Yeah.
So you're saying, do we need to do anything official on that to make sure that there's access there in the future if necessary?
Well, again, I think the difficulty is one, nailing down an exact location for it. And then two is it may not even be necessary because they have access through the parcel to the south.
Yeah.
So it's not something we have to figure out today?
That would be my recommendation, but if the board feels
With the
strongly.
current meeting situation, if we, but years ago, if we'd said, well, we're requiring you as part of this to provide access to the north, but they aren't providing it now.
Right.
So there's not, and that, there's
Yeah.
an issue now.
Right.
Because it could be a different user, I mean, that they wouldn't want to necessarily bring access to.
I understand.
They are guaranteeing access to the south.
there's already-
There will be access.
There's already recorded access from what I understand, so.
Yeah, they are.
My question would be, what's the likelihood, due to the fact that Orange Road intersection is so close to that would even be a feasible?
I don't know if that will ever even
Right.
connect.
It would
all
have
the
to
way
go
down.
further
right.
west to be
Yeah.
safe.
I'm hoping that it connects just to Parkway maybe and just stops because I don't see that. Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking to someone because we were discussing actually maybe doing that road sooner than later yesterday.
Oh, really?
And I was like, I do think it's too close to the Orange Road intersection. So yeah, it might be a non-issue. I just want to make sure everyone has access to whatever road there is in the future because if we cut off the Parkway access, which we might in the future, everyone will want a way to get in and out. It's probably a self-fixing problem, I'm assuming. Right, you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, and just, whether we require it now or not, if it's advantageous for the property owner to do in the future, they can still do it.
Did you have any other questions?
No, that's, yeah.
I just had a
Yeah,
couple.
go ahead.
So we required 33 parking spots, but you've given us 43. Are you allowed to make that less if you want to? Or is it-
And I don't think we're bound to the 43, right, through the development
No.
plan? So, yeah.
That'd
I
be
think
maximum.
We can reduce, part of the discussion was through engineering, that might
Right,
be part
yeah.
of the discussion as
Okay.
well.
And Robin, assuming that the property to the side in the north becomes commercial, remind us what are the setbacks required when it's commercial?
So there are no side or rear setbacks for planned commercial. It's only from roadways or from residential properties.
Okay, so then assuming that the properties adjacent to it become commercial, then those numbers are fine.
Yes.
Okay, great. And then when the buildings are complete, they'll look at like one continuous development, right? The buildings are gonna coordinate, maybe
Yeah,
not
that's the
exactly.
idea, is to make it look like it's
One
kind of
cohesive
one
place.
campus, if you will.
Great. And then you already own the property
Correct.
that we're in. Okay, those are my only questions.
And I would just like, I guess it's not really a official commitment, but that you would work with the township in the future, whatever we plan that road, to make sure that access is fair.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I don't know what that would entail.
Yeah, we're
right now.
always open to working with you guys.
Yeah, we don't know what it's going to look like or where it's going to dead end, but the residents of Parkway Lane are not happy about traffic cutting through to how everything's developing, and so we were discussing maybe blocking that off or something, but we would want to have a secondary access, so we might be pushing that project up closer sooner, but it would still be probably a couple years.
Okay.
Okay, any more questions? So do we have any conditions? Let's see.
Yes, so I have two resolutions before you. One is to adopt with modifications. The other would be to deny. If you want to do a straight approval without the modifications, you would just say adopt without the modifications. But
We have to, with your modifications here, the first one is you have to get the fire department approval, so we have that now, right? So
Correct.
we can strike that one.
You can, but it doesn't hurt to leave it
Okay,
in.
just leave it, okay.
And then the second is the recorded cross-access easement to facilitate access and lighting trespass between the subject property and the property to the
And regional
south.
planning had recommended that one as well. You guys.
Actually, the lighting hadn't come up, but, so regional planning solution for that was to combine the two parcels into one parcel, but
Which then
this
we decided to do.
accomplishes similar goals.
Okay, I'm fine with these modifications.
Oh, yeah, and if it is combined, that limits the use in the future. It's harder to subdivide it if you want to
Correct,
put up
yeah.
the property and sell it for two different things, yeah. That, I mean, it seems like a good idea, but not really. Okay, yeah, just these two conditions, those two conditions work for you guys?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
And let's see. I make a motion to approve Resolution 24-146 to adopt with modifications the recommendation of approval of the zoning commission as to zoning application number ZON 24-01 of Pickups Plus for rezoning from Farm Residential 1 to, or Farm Residential to Planned Commercial and Office District. Let's see. With the following conditions. The applicant shall obtain all necessary approvals from the Orange Township Fire Department prior to approval of zoning permits from Orange Township. That's the first one. And the second one is applicant will provide evidence of a recorded cross-access easement to facilitate access and lighting trespass between the subject property and the adjacent property to the south prior to approval of zoning permits from Orange Township.
Second?
Ms. Knapp,
Yes?
Mr. Ringel,
Yes.
Mrs. Faust.
Yes.
Thank
Motion
you.
carries.
And thank you for expanding your business in the township. We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
2 minutes till the next meeting.
Yeah, we
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
so we'll have to adjourn this meeting and then move to the next.
Hearing, okay.
All right, the hearing is closed.
Oh, do we have to second and? Yeah, it's at the. Yeah, last page.
Okay, is this numbered? Okay, make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
Ms. Knapp,
Yeah?
Mr. Ringel,
Yes.
Mrs. Faust.